Hi, Bill Henshaw here again, another one of my YouTube current events videos on my Win in Court channel. And this one involves a recent announcement by yet another Democratic idiot, Steny Hoyer, the leader of the House in the House of Representatives, as if there's anyone qualified to hold office in either the House or the Senate. A video for another day. It's claimed that the Trump interference with the election now borders on treason. I would suggest Representative Hoyer and all you other members of Congress on both sides of the aisle check Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 2 that describes qualifications of members of the House of Representatives, and it mandates that they must be a resident in the state that they represent. Now, as listeners to my channel know, and I've said this repeatedly, it's the crown jewel of all of my arguments. There are no states. If that's the case, identify exactly what state that you are domiciled in, that you represent in Congress. I'd love to hear it. There aren't any. The states have been reduced to, in effect, in my view, federal insular territorial possessions. There's no right to any elections in such possessions, especially insular, unless Congress has provided for them, and Congress cannot in any event provide for the election of presidents. Really interesting stuff. So you want to talk about treason, you're sitting there claiming to be in a position of honor, profit, and trust in the de facto government, and you're not anywhere close. Now, you went to law school 4 to 6 years, like probably most all those other bastards in the House and the Senate, and you don't know this? Give me a break. That's treason. The Supreme Court of the United States saying it, not me. Cases Cohens, Cohens v. Virginia, 6 Wheaton 264. Those of you who want a copy of the excerpts from Cohens that'll support what I'm saying, and they're buttes, send me an email, youwinincourt@gmail.com. I'll also send information on my constitutional defense document packets, which I just recently reduced with the oncoming holidays and the continued COVID crap that we're under here by 33%. It was very inexpensive anyway. Now my documents are about 1/10 of 1% of what you would pay for a 4-year education in one of the major law schools, Starboard, Bayeux, Berkeley, you name it, if they were still teaching the Constitution. And obviously most of them are not. It's irrelevant these days. Why bother? Why do you want to waste time and effort studying on something you won't be able to use, at least from their skewed perspective? We will be able to do it, and very effectively. I've already done it in several cases, and I can teach you how to do the same thing and also set an unopposed record in the trial court so we can really go after the bastards, because they haven't entered any of my documents in 5 decades, but they have the sworn duty to do it and sustain the jurisdiction of the trial court. Never happens. You have to ask yourself why, especially in traffic courts. But it goes a lot further than that, as my recent one in my Oakland felony case shows. So that said, with Hoyer accusing Trump of treason, I don't know exactly what he might be referring there. By the way, if you don't know, there have been other elections that have had results similar to this. A notorious one in 1876 between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel J. Tilden, and it got thrown into the House of Representatives to be decided there. And at that time, Tilden was leading the Electoral College 184 to 170, only needed 185. Goes to the House. The remaining 15 electoral votes, and they came from Oregon, Louisiana, and another state I can't think of off the top of my head, all went to Hayes by an 8-7 vote. He was elected by one electoral vote, despite the fact he didn't win the popular vote, which has nothing to do with it anyway. You'll be hearing about that case. You might not be hearing as much about the election of 1824 with Andrew Jackson and John Quincy Adams, where the same thing happened. Jackson went into the House with the plurality of the popular vote and the electoral vote. He was leading all the other, there were 3 or 4 other candidates. By the time it all ended up, John Quincy Adams got elected president, quote unquote, and Jackson was very vehement about being upset about the presidency being stolen from him. As you may be aware, he went on to become president in 1828 and reelected in 1832. The sole thing on his platform was getting rid of the second bank of the United States, i.e., the predecessor of the Federal Reserve System, Nicholas Biddle and all those New York bankster bastards. And this is the main reason he's very high on my list of presidents. There's not a whole lot of choice for the top 5, and not even the top 10 really, but Jackson's in the top 5 for this reason. Yeah, there were some things I didn't like about the presidency, but overall, given the contenders, he did a very good job of getting rid of the bank. We then had the biggest financial collapse at that time in the history of the United States. And guess who made a lot of money there? The George T. Peabody Company. You've never heard of them. I bet you know the company they became. J.P. Morgan Guarantee Trust. That's where the bastards made all their money. John Pierpont Morgan's father was a member of that organization, Peabody, and it trickled down, and that's what it became later. In about another 20 or 30 years, J.P. Morgan, and of course the bastards are still with us. But that's how these financial traps work. And we may be headed into another big one here, because they want to digitize everything, get rid of quote unquote money, which is nothing but undefined dollars, aka Federal Reserve notes, aka evidences of debt. Who knows how that one is going to play out? And we will see what happens with the election. Having mentioned about the other 2 elections, I should also note that Trump probably thinks he has the power to issue an executive order staying, if not stopping, the election until such time as the final determination is made or until a new election is ordered. Now, that would be unprecedented, but trust me, if we're in federal insular territories anyway, in which there are no elections, and we're subject to the president as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, I don't see the problem with Trump issuing an executive order like that, probably carefully worded to avoid saying what I've just been saying over the course of this video. But it could be done. It really could. Hopefully they'll have to spill the beans, and I think that would really go a long way toward invalidating the legitimacy of these presidential elections in any event. And it's far out of control, especially given the fact the federal government has virtual control over about everything we do, including, according to some attorneys, taking a crap in a publicly funded bathroom, affecting interstate commerce, way outside the scope of what the original intent of the framers was. So that said, there could be some interesting things happen here, especially if we all pull together here, Americans, Africans, Asians, whatever, make the right arguments in the right court with the right status. I can teach you how to do that. Send me an email, youwinincourt@gmail.com, for information on my materials. Modestly priced, very effective. You can learn, teach your children, have them teach their children, so our posterity can take care of business and not be sucked into all this crap. That's the main purpose of my being 15 years all in now, and in my 5th decade, because they didn't teach me a damn thing 50 years ago either. I learned it the hard way, but I did learn it, and I want to teach you how to do the same thing without having to spend 10,000 hours in those musty old law school books in the law libraries. And I did it, and for me, that's a good thing, because I retained a lot of it, and it isn't just names, dates, and places. And they can't beat me. They haven't even tried to do it. And I don't think they're going to try it with you once they see the documents you're going to put into court. We can hit them right now with very close to 800 pages if you get the entire packet. And they won't even be able to answer 2 paragraphs, yet they have the sworn duty to do it. You tell me. So the election business may get a lot more interesting here. We'll see what develops. And I'll be doing videos as events continue to update. And by the way, I'm going to take a shot here at Rudy Giuliani, who I didn't care for when he was mayor of New York. I don't like him now. I think he's incompetent. And this is a bastard that wanted to get paid $20,000 a day to do these cases for Trump. And yet he embarrasses himself when he gets into the Court of Appeals for the first time in 30 years, and apparently doesn't have a clue what the hell he's talking about, or is trying to be very careful so that the real issue doesn't come out. Because I do think, and I said before, this election is wide open to fraud, especially with the mail-in votes. And those are mostly Democratic in any event. So I don't know what's going on here. I think there's a lot more to it. But nobody wants it to come out on either side of the equation, because, that will raised big questions about these presidential elections and all the power they have in Washington, D.C. I get it. So we'll see how it goes. But Giuliani, I'm not a big fan. You should get the hell out of the way. Let some competent attorney get in there and take care of business, and we'll see what develops. So that said, remember, as I said, send me an email, youwinincourt@gmail.com. I'll send you information on the materials I have, and you can get up to speed quickly and be a force when you go into one of their courts and stop them dead in their tracks like what I do. You don't have to be nearly as good as I am to do that. They're so damned ignorant or so corrupt. It doesn't take that much. So that said, remember to like the videos, subscribe, tell your friends, get the word out. The more we have out there doing it, especially over a broad spectrum, getting away from all this civil rights crap, the quicker we get these bastards off our backs, and not a moment too soon the way it looks. Thank you.